My name is Dirk Fletcher. I am a second-generation photographer. My dad is a retired photographer in St. Louis. He was a corporate industrial photographer, and he was a board member. He was actually the second president of ASMP in St. Louis, a trade organization. And he shot like coal mines and steel mills and oil rigs and kind of industrial stuff, generally for annual reports and companies that produced mostly, annual reports, slick images of ugly things. And I always thought I would kind of follow in his footsteps. But in St. Louis, and I was a board member of ASMP for about 8 years in Chicago, and we went to a lab, and we sat in a room that was about this big, twice a month, and had our meetings, which was really ugly, really, and it smelled like a lab. But in St. Louis, all the different studios would host a meeting here and there. So in St. Louis, one of the huge buyers of photography is Anheuser-Busch. And I was in John Bruton's studio. He's still shooting. He does advertising images. And they were set up for a beer shot, a pour. And this is probably mid-'80s, 84, 85. So it was 8 by 10. They had a layout tape there, and it was literally, Photoshop hadn't been invented yet, or it was in very primitive form. But nowadays, when you go to do a pour, they capture a bunch of stuff, they give it to some geeks in the basement, and out comes this beautiful pour shot. And back in the day, they would have this it was like a habit trail set up. They had a certain amount of beer they would put in to get the curve just perfectly in the glass, and they would shoot a sheet of 8 by 10. And we were there the night before the shoot, and he goes, all right. I told him, this is really cool. Can I come check it out? And he goes, Darcy's going to be here, which is the account, or the advertising agency, and Anheuser-Busch is going to be here. But you can come in and sit in that chair and not say a word. And so my dad dropped me off, and I sat in the corner, and I was afraid to eat. I didn't even go to the bathroom. I had to pee, and I was just like, but I watched him do, and they shot, I want to say 22 sheets of film. I was counting holders. They shot 22 sheets of film, and it was amazing to watch what they did. They would pour, and they had a certain amount poured out, and it would go in this thing, and then they had a modified, what you would use like in the garden if you have like a little like cherub guy that spits out water, in your backyard. Does anybody have one of those? Because I think they're really weird. Do you? Oh, sorry. What do you do with it in the winter? Do you put antifreeze in it? Or I never knew what to. But anyway, so they had the pump portion of that on this giant hose, and they would like pour it in. They would shoot the picture, and then they would jam this thing, the pump with a button on top to suck the beer out, because the inside of the glass was coated with something similar to Rain-X. So when the beer went in, it kind of coated the inside, and it stayed real visible. It was just gorgeous. So and back then also they shot, I think, 4 sheets, sent it out to the lab to do a test. They entertained the client for a couple hours while the film came back, and it was really amazing. So after that, I said, okay, I'm not going to hang out in steel mills and get all sweaty. I want to do advertising photography. So I looked at Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara, Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, and Art Center Pasadena. And Art Center was way too expensive. Didn't go there. So then you're weighing Brooks Institute, where you can lay on the beach for 9 months of the year, or Rochester, New York, where you can shovel snow for 9 months of the year. So I ended up in Santa Barbara. I took everything I could in terms of kind of advertising. I was an advertising major, but then I also audited all of the industrial classes because they were doing the Schlerin fields and beam break and ballistics photography, and that got me started, my interest in doing real commercial. I do a lot of liquids and pours, and the program I run in Chicago, it's a very commercial program. We're the last thing from an art school. Our big competitor is School of the Art Institute and Columbia College, both very, very defined art programs. So we have a kind of a niche in the commercial world, and we teach a lot of the pours and splashes. We do lace. I don't know if when you were out, if I showed you any of the pours and splashes. We've got a delay timer where it works. It's kind of a cool process. It's similar to a garage door opener. You know how there's the infrared beam break where if your kid runs through on a stroller, the thing stops coming down. You'd set it up basically if you're going to photograph a glass here, you set up a field like that and you drop through like a lime, an Oreo cookie going into milk or an acrylic ice cube. And as soon as that beam breaks, it sends a signal to a delay timer. And you do this in the dark. You kind of dim all the lights. It sends it to a delay timer where you can control exactly when that whatever it is you're dropping goes into the glass. So you can get the splash right on top. You can get it in the middle. If you're dropping an olive into a martini glass, the client can say, I want it right here in the bottom. And you can pretty much do that. The really cool thing is you dim the lights and you bulb the camera, and it kind of burns on your retina, the image, when the strobes fire. So back in the day when we were shooting film, you would get so dialed in before you even shot your first frame that you could shoot a roll of 120 film and come and get 12 decent usable images because you're all in the room, you watch it, you drop it through, and it freezes it in action. So it's really that's the part of photography that gets me really excited, is the kind of, like you said this morning, it is, you absolutely have to have the technical grasp. You're not going to build a bridge without knowing something about how the foundation's going to lay. And the kids today, and we have a very lively night program as well. Probably more of our students are nighttime students than daytime students, and they're adult students. I would teach 5 adult classes to every 1 class during the day. The high school kids that come out, they're very, to them, this is photography. We do a class, the school is Harrington is the largest interior design program in the known universe. We have over 800 degree-seeking interior design students. And so we developed a class, photography for the non-major, which just teaches them Lightroom and how to light a simple set because they all build models and stuff. And they're arguing because they want to take the class with their cell phone. And, you at least have to, just something. Go get some kind of camera. But it's really good. I'm going to be a designer. That's exactly what they sound like. So we come at it with kind of a real kind of commercial advertising bent, and I'll show you some work at the end, some projects, if we can get out. I don't know if we can go to the website. Some projects we've done with us at lunch, TED and the the TED conferences. There was a TEDx Chicago. I took a group of 6 students or 5 students and myself. We photographed all of the TED, all the talks, all of the lectures, and then all of the labs. And if you go to the website now for the next year's event, all of that is Harrington student work. So we do our best to get students out working in the commercial area now, because anyone can. The market has never been worse for photography, and some of that. I have an iPad. This is not working like an iPad. Hey, there we go. And some of that kind of comes around to what I wanted to talk about, which is kind of Pinhole and different trends in advertising. So going back probably 10 years, everything was selective focus. All the food photography, especially like Chicago Magazine, all of the city magazines, St. Louis Magazine, they would do you'd have this piece of cake and something dripping off it, and whatever's dripping off is tack sharp and everything else is completely out of focus. You almost couldn't pick up anything and not see just very, very thin depth of field. Examples like that. These are not mine. These are just stuff
These are all Pinhole, right?
No, not yet. We're talking, we're going to get to Pinhole because we're kind of trends and how things are going. So this is all, so that stuff was, can I go backwards? Ooh. Nope, can't go backwards. We're only going forwards. Holga. You guys know what a Holga is? It's a $16 plastic camera. It is all the rage. For a while when these first came out, when I moved to Chicago in 94, I was assistant for about 4 years, just working in commercial studios. There was one, Michael Jordan was huge in Chicago at that time. Guy came in from New York. I can't remember who it was. I was only the second assistant, which is basically, you run and get permits and stuff like that. I was not on set. But guy shows up with literally a dozen Holgas, and the first assistant, all he did was load film all day. And it's a plastic camera. This does have film in it. I'll pass it around. I shot a little bit coming out today, 4 frames. It's a single element plastic lens, and it is known for images like this. It has light leaks. It has rubber bands on it because the back will pop off if you shake it weird. This is one I just bought. My normal one is like covered in Velcro, so you can do it, but the wind mechanism is really loose, so when the film comes out, it flares. This is actually, here, I'll pass this around. You know what it is. I know what it is. They made one with a glass lens for a while called a Waka. This was one with the Waka. This was actually built on or shot with the Hasselblad back. But lots of fall off. You get weird vignetting. It's very easy to accidentally double expose. So, because you just literally wind it up, take a picture, and if you put it down, take another picture, you'll double expose. So you get lots of double exposures. This was huge. You saw a lot of people using Holgas, and now there's, you can get with Instagram, there's a Holga edges you can put on your stuff. I mean, how many people are using Instagram in here? How many people are afraid to raise their hand because of what I'm going to say if you're using Instagram? Liesel. Thank God Instagram is out now. Everyone's an artist. There are some variations with the Holga. I mean, and for a while, I want to say about 3 years, a lot of people were doing Holga. This is I'm going to pass this around. This is one I made in the basement. I get along with Gary so well because I build things in the basement after the kids go to sleep. Do you remember the 3D cameras that were out? There were two of them. One was a Nimsol, and the other Nishiki, I think. Nishika. The Nimsol is built on a metal body. I don't think there's film in here, so we can pop it open. But it wasn't really 3D at the time. It was a lenticular camera. So it had 4 frames in here. So you would shoot your pictures, and then it would go off to some mysterious lab in California with a $20 check, and you would get your 4x6 lenticulars back, which is a really cool process. Obviously, you don't make them anymore. The company went out of business. But you can still get these on eBay for $20. So the Holga I just passed around, you'll notice the front end of this, remarkably the same. So I took the lens and shutter off a Holga, dremeled out. I'll pass this around open so you can see. There's you cut it up, pass it around, run 35 millimeter film through it, and all of a sudden you have a panoramic Holga. It vignettes on the sides really, really heavily because the lens only covers about 3.5 inches. So it goes dark on the sides. So you get really kind of whimsical results like that. All these are straight out of the camera. I do very, very, very little Photoshop. As you can tell, I'm excitable. I don't want to sit in front of a computer for a long time. I would rather go shoot something, get it right in camera, and move on. Front lit and backlit, when you hit it with the sun, you get really funky effects. But kind of cool and whimsical. A lot of people have been doing, making different, you can get a Holga, they have a commercially available Holgaroid. And that's what I built my own Holgaroid, but I didn't bring it, it wouldn't fit in the bag. But that's basically an old Polaroid camera, like the 200, that takes pack film, cut that off, put a Holga on the front, and you can kind of take advantage of the image circle. And you get these weird, funky images because then the print itself is 3.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So again, you see the real kind of low tech, low fidelity. You get zero detail in here, and that's something that was very, very popular. We're coming out of. Holgas kind of started falling out of fashion about 3 years ago. In attempts to keep them alive, if you go onto Freestyle's website, you can get them in practically every color. They are. You can get them in day glow, which I'm not quite sure how that works. If the camera glows in the dark and it's still a film camera. Have you seen those? Yes. Is the inside? I'm assuming it's just the outside that's day glow. Because I saw that and I'm like, yeah, it's all. I just got a Holga, a pan Holga with the 90 millimeter lens. I haven't run any film yet. Yeah. I bet the Pinhole's no good. I bet you can swap it out.